up, YouTube? Been asked by a few people to do an overview of everything that's been done to the 83 K10 LS swap project, like how I've done some stuff and different stuff like that. Got pretty much it to the point where it's a running driving truck. Got the drivetrain swapped, got this axle swapped. So yeah, it's pretty much the running driving truck. For some of you subscribers, it's been a long time following. I got my per comp wheels on it and 2 new front tires to get rid of some of them real crappy BF Goodriches I had. But yeah, like I said, it's an 83 Scottsdale K10. When I picked it up, I paid $300 for the truck. It was bone stock, probably about the most stock one of these that I've ever came across. It was pretty much unmolested, but it was about the most useless, gutless truck that GM made in the 80s. It was factory 308 gears, 700 R4, MP208, and a 305 that was choked down really bad with emissions. This still had the emissions on it. It did not have an AC compressor. It was in the bed. Somebody took it off for some reason. I don't know why. It must have locked up or something. It was locked up, but I don't know how long it sat back there, so who knows. But other than that, it was pretty much stock. Even the vacuum lines were there. Well, what was left of them, they were pretty much all dry rotted, but the truck was pretty much bone stock. And I knew that I wanted an LS swapped long box for a long time. I really wanted the short box step side to commemorate my 80 or my 74. But when this came across, I was like, well, I got this 5.3. We'll go ahead and slap it in this bad boy. So yeah, that being said, it's a 2003, ironically, 2003 5.3 liter drive-by-wire. The transmission is a 2003 4L60E also. It is utilizing a advanced adapters. I don't know the part number. I'll put it up on the screen, and I'll have links in the description too of the adapter I used to go to the MP208. That still allows me to use my cable driven speedometer. As you guys can see, there's the MP208 poly transmission mounts. I'm using poly clamshell motor mounts on it. It has a set of dirty Dingo motor mounts. I will put them in the description as well. Throw parts number up on the screen, what I used. When I used just them alone, I did not like how low the engine sat in there. My oil pan was really close to my cross member. I could hardly put like 2 sheets of paper in between. That was ridiculous. So I got a set of LS Innovation spacers off of eBay if I can find them. They're actually not spacers, they're actually motor mount adapters for clamshell mounts, but they are the same bolt pattern as the LS, obviously, so I just got longer bolts and used them to space it up a smidge. There's enough adjustment in the dirty Dingo motor mounts to allow it to work. I'm using the first generation Speed Engineering shorty headers for this truck. They have used the 3-bolt flange. The new one, they're V-band flanges, which are a lot nicer than these, but comes with O2 bungs in the collectors, which is nice. So yeah, it's utilizing the stock drive shaft, the engine, transmission, and transfer cases in the stock location. We are utilizing a aluminum radiator off of eBay, along with electric fans, a shroud off. This is a whole kit. I can't remember what I gave for it. It was pretty inexpensive. Using stock upper and lower radiator hoses. LS upper and lower radiator hoses works awesome. As of right now, I'm using the stock air intake tube, and this is a Vararam intake box for a 2000, like a 98 to like 07 Chevy pickup, Tahoe Escalade, or, you know, GMC, Yukon, all that stuff. the GMT 800 platform trucks. This is a intake box for one of them with the air intake tube swapped around a little bit. There's an open spot here that I have a plug for that I need to put in there, but other than that, it's pulling in the cold air from the stock air intake for your carburetor hat. And yeah, the wind's got to pick up because, you know, wind ain't blowing all day. But of course, when I'm going to shoot this, the wind's really going to blow. But yeah. But yeah, that's what I'm using for the air intake. So yeah, like I said, 2003 5.3 dirty Dingo mounts, advanced adapters, adapter plate to the 4L60 to the MP208, stock MP208 that was in this truck, Speed Engineering headers, custom exhaust done by a local exhaust shop. That's pretty much it for the drivetrain swap. PSI conversion harness. That's what I use for the wiring. It runs through the stock electronic spark control wiring grommet in the back there in the firewall. Pretty clean setup. I did have to extend my MAF wires, which someday I'll actually go through and do a little bit better work with that as well anyways. I also extended my crank signal that goes up behind the starter with an extension wire just to route it away from the heat from the headers. Got heat socks on there on the wires. Yeah, it seems to be working pretty well. Using the older 98 to like 2000 square head off the older Vortex, just because I think it looks a tad better on the square body styled truck than it did on the than the round one does. Personally, that's just a personal preference. I don't know how much hood clearance there is, but this motor is setting back at a pretty extreme angle, which worked pretty good for me because of my lifted drivetrain. I do not have the transfer case drop bushings in, and it seems to be, it's a little high for my liking, but here for too long I'll go ahead and get them in, and I'll drop my drive shaft down a smidge more, do something with my exhaust clamp there. It's going to be in the way. But yeah, my transfer case is still leaking, unfortunately. I got to do a shifter seal right around where the shifter is for the four-wheel drive. I need to replace that seal. I replaced the input seal, the output seals on front and rear. The axles are a 77 K20 axle, 14 bolt rear, Dana 44 front, 456 gears throughout, locker up front, mile marker lockouts, full rebuild on the front end, new ring gear, new ring gear and pinion set, new install kit, using the stock carrier, using a Spartan locker. It has a full rough country suspension, 4-inch suspension lift, full leaf spring lift, not block rear. Full rough country suspension shocks, and some rough country suspension knockoff boots. So you're doing pretty good. 87 fuel tank and fuel pump sender with a faster, higher PSI pump. It is coming out to AN fitting tube adapters down in there, which I have a whole video on the fuel system on this truck too if you want to go back and look at it. But it's all AN stainless steel braided line up to the comes up around there, comes up and goes into the 45s up to the fuel rail. So this is a feed and return instead of just a feed system. And for the automatic transmission, I went ahead and utilized AN line, stainless steel braided AN line for the coolers. It does have an auxiliary cooler tucked up under there, right there. Can't really see it, but there is one pretty good size. What is it, Hildren? I think it's Hildren. That's who makes them. That's pretty good size, one of them in there. Like I said, 14 bolt rear, Dana 44 front, 4-wheel disc brakes. It's got a disc brake conversion from lug nut 4x4. Stainless steel braided brake lines from Skyjackers for a 4-inch to 6-inch lift. All new Moog ball joints, steering rods, tie rods, all that stuff. Corvette master cylinder, like a C3 Corvette. Some aeration proportioning valve down there. Brake lines were all in pretty good shape, so they're. I just ended up utilizing the stock lines. The one that's questionable is the one running to the back, which I'm going to end up replacing here eventually. So I need to cut down my leaf springs. They're still a little tall yet, but yeah, there's my axle dump. Eventually I want to run it clear to the back. Yeah, there's not a lot to say other than that. I can go and try and show you a little bit of the interior. She's not pretty, but she's mine. For speedometer, accurate speedometer, I've got my scan gauge. I've got the gear ratio and tire size tuned into the LS computer, so it reads out correct on the scan gauge too. Got my tach. My water temperature gauge doesn't work. It's the gauge. The sender works. It's for some reason this is not the original gauge. It was in the truck. I broke the needle off. Just used another gauge. Realized it didn't work. So yeah, that's always fun. But yeah, my oil pressure gauge works. Just using adapters using the stock sender, it works. The speedometer works, but of course I haven't geared it to this gear ratio and tire size, so it's off. Fuel gauge works, of course. It's a square body fuel gauge, so it stays still about as much as a person with Parkinson's. And no offense if you have Parkinson's, that's just the nature of that disease, unfortunately. But yeah, pretty much pretty basic. Need to get carpet for it. Got snap-on screwdriver handle on my shifter there. For my linkage, I just utilized the stock linkage down there, and I believe on this transmission it had the still has the box, the neutral safety box on it. I didn't even bother taking that off, but yeah, the 700R4 linkage works just fine on this. There's my Fuel Labs fuel filter right there, all in line. Yeah, parking brakes. I don't have parking brakes currently, unfortunately, but you know, that happens sometimes. As you guys can see, there's pretty good clearance now underneath the oil pan there. I got my factory harness and I got to do some zip tying to it. I need to end up redoing it eventually because the wire got smashed on in the installation. Yeah, we won't talk about that. I taped it up and haven't really done anything with it, but yeah, I really like these wheels. They give it a good offset, look really good on it. Yet the tread is still within my front running boards, so it don't fling rocks up the side of it real bad. Like it matters if I get rock chips in this paint. But yeah, that's the best part about the truck is its patina look, and I don't like scratching it because, you know, it'll rust. But yeah, I really do like the patina look to it. One day I'd like to have one that's real clean and nice, but I don't think this one's going to be it. Because I do like just driving the piss out of it. So, but yeah, for how I mounted my computer, I cut my glove box door off, which is kind of unfortunate, but it works. It's mounted on an LS bracket there, mounted to the air box. The fuse block for the LS systems is right there. Some of the extra wiring for the PSI harness is right there, like speedometer and whatnot, which I'll probably end up using when I go to my speed height gauges, which I plan to do. As of right now, I do not have any air conditioning. I do plan to lube up this door hinge, but I do plan to do air conditioning. Right now I don't even have the evaporator in it. I need to take this apart, clean it all out again. It's kind of had a mouse nest in it last winter, so you know, every time I use the air it stinks. Yeah, you gotta love mice. I want to do a side mount air compressor over here, which I'll have to redo my intake tube, which I plan to do anyways. I'll probably come out with 45, come up here, up and over and in. I should be able to do something like that pretty easily. But yeah, I'm gonna do something over here with the older style, like round, skinny air compressors. What are they? R4 compressors, what I think they're called. And I'm gonna get the hoses for like a 90s Suburban or Blazer, for like a K5 Blazer, because it's the same air box. I'll use the evaporator core for one of them, condensers, lines, and then I will use the compressor lines, because I'm pretty sure that's about the same location on the serpentine system of a K5, so that should work pretty awesome there, I think. We'll see how that goes. I'm missing my factory clamp down here for my heater hoses, unfortunately, but they obviously work. Just 3/4 inch hose, and what is this, 1/2 inch? I think it's just 1/2 inch. But yeah, it's Gates hose, works perfectly for that. Hooked into my water pump, heat's perfect, great heat in this truck. Yeah, I got my steam vent router right here. For the temperature sender, I used a LS Innovations again adapter down there. You really can't see it, but I'll post that as well. And for on the link in the description below, I'll put a part number up on the screen. Fuel pump, fan 1 and fan 2, they're all fused right here. Then if you come over here, I can't remember what this fuse is for. Right there, can't remember what that fuse is for, but that's fan 1 and fan 2 relays right there. This is a ground for my old windshield wiper motor. Won't talk about that. But I'd like to swap this out for one of them fuse blocks that's got the 6 relays and then the fuses in it, and relocate these fuses and whatnot to that. But yeah, this has got a heavier gauge wire running up to the grommet that run up to this. This is my main distribution for power. This is out of like a 90s, 88 to 90 Chevy truck, 88 to 97, 96 Chevy truck. Got battery cables, got a Stinger connection here, which I'm going to replace that with some better ones I have in the shop, because I'm going to be replacing this. I'm going to be replacing the ground straps. I'm going to put a 4-gauge ground to the body, 4-gauge ground to the frame. I want to ground the block to the frame. I'm going to do like a big 3 to this, but only in 4-gauge, just do a mild upgrade, because I want to put winches and stuff on this truck later on down the road. But yeah, right now I'm just using vacuum brakes. I do want to convert it over to Hydro Boost. For the brakes, I just used a 3/8 to 1/2 inch adapter. 90 came off the back of the LS manifold, converted it to the smaller or the square body line. You kept the filter in there and everything. It worked pretty good, so pretty happy with that. It doesn't get hot. These fans keep it cool. It's fun to drive. It handles pretty good with all the new suspension components in it. The power steering gearbox is a little worn out, but it seems to be doing pretty well. I need to crawl under and grease it. Getting pretty close to that time. So I just recently converted it to H4 LED headlights. They're super bright. I'm using the Aux Beam F16 series, 72 watts. They're extremely bright compared to the halogen lights. I really like them a lot. In future upgrades, I want to do all LED bulbs, LED flashers and whatnot. I ordered a receiver for it, so I can finally get rid of this old farmer receiver that is entirely too high for any trailer that I have now. So I can actually use my drop receivers. Put a old DZ toolbox in it, used my cab guard with my lights in it, with my LEDs in it for clearance lights. They seem to work pretty good. Yeah. But yeah, I rambled on for about 20 minutes here, so if I didn't mention anything and you want to have some questions about it, just hit it up in the comments. If I have to make a separate video, I will. Or if I can answer your question there, I'll go ahead and answer your question. But yeah, seems to be a good running truck, good running driving, stops good. I got a few little things to do here and there. I got to do my front sway bar yet. I got to do my front steering stabilizer. I don't have one. But yeah, I got to get one of them and do the front sway bar. I got the bushings and stuff. I just got to clean the sway bar up and I'm gonna paint it. I decided about putting the bushings in it and going for it because, you know, it comes off the frame and the frame's rusty, so why not? But yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it, guys, and got it all lined now. She's good to roll. Cruise control works. I'm using with the swap harness. The cruise control does work. This is a 91 column. I do have the rest of the 91 harness. I'm eventually going to probably put in this to get the intermittent windshield wipers and the dim up here in the column, even though I can modify this harness to work with the dim in the column. I just haven't, because I do kind of like the old clicker in the floor. So, but yeah, it's got LED dome lights, all that stuff, so that it works. LED, all the dome lights work and everything. Yeah, so like I said, if you got any questions, hit me up in the comments, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.